connected? And right off the bat, I will tell you, yes, very much so. In fact, extra time you spend on the ground during your run is just going to add impact and chance of injury. So the longer I'm on the ground, the more chance I have of injury. And so foot strike, just by nature, is striking the ground, right? Just the word of it, right? Foot strike. And so, and think about, the thoughts people have when they run. Like, I'm going to go hit the pavement. I'm going to go pound the pavement. I'm going to, hit the track. It's always like these aggressive, striking words. And so one of the first things I do when I start working with runners is I want to take that whole thought out of foot strike. But first I want to show them, why does the foot strike cause the injury? And then we'll talk about what we need to do to change it. So I'm just going to go right into it. So foot strike itself, like I said, the thought of it is how your foot strikes the ground. And so I'm going to stand up here and I'm going to talk about the most popular foot strike is the heel strike. And this one shows up the best, I think, in pictures, and it just kind of looks like it's not really good for you. I call it the kickstand. So the heel strike, it's like you can see if I'm traveling forward and I throw my heel out, I just stopped my movement and my foot is acting like a brake. So what happens is if my foot's acting like a brake, all that impact's traveling back up and then my body's going forward and it's going to make my foot go down. So I call it a two-part landing. So my foot goes heel, flat, heel, flat, heel, flat, heel, flat. There's 1,500, on average 1,500 steps in a mile. So if I'm just in a constant state of this and then this, I'm just putting so much stress on so many parts of my body, especially, when I'm here, actually the hamstring is getting stressed, the calf is getting stressed, of course my heel is getting stressed, and then that slap comes down, and that slap hits that shin, top of the foot, shin, up the knee, up the hip. So that heel slap, foot strike, creates a lot of issues up the leg. So that's why, yes, foot strike can affect you. And then, by the way, the answer in the beginning to the foot strike, it was noted that a lot of people landed on their heels. This was years ago, like in the 70s. So this is where that cushioning started to come in. So then the shoes have been putting cushioning in the shoe. So while you're running, the idea is you don't feel that. You don't feel that impact. However, the studies show that your foot still feels the impact, your shin still feels the impact, the body's still getting the same impact, you just don't actually feel it while you're running, which is why your body allows for it to happen. So foot strike can and does affect injury, especially if it's with intent. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. So if you're trying to put the foot out, again, you're going to put a lot of stress on that leg. And they've estimated it's about 3 times your body weight. So 1,500 times 3 times your body weight. You can see how that impact can add up. And then some people land like this. I call this looking for the ground. So if I'm looking for the ground and pointing my toes slightly, again, a lot of stress on my calf, also the front of my leg, front of my foot, and again, the arch and the Achilles. And the same with if I pronate or I supinate. So any one of these landings, and again, heel slap, looking for the ground, pronate, supinate, all of these are from tension in the ankle. So this is important because if you have minimal tension in your ankle when you run, you are going to reduce your impact. And what happens is, for most of us, by the way, when we first start running, foot strike is a big part of the conversation. Like when I very first started running, I was still in college, and I'm a kinesiology major. I was doing tons of fitness classes, so I did that all through college. I taught fitness classes, I did personal training, so I was in the gym all the time, and I would even run to go teach my fitness classes. Like I was really into it. And I started getting, the more I ran, and then I signed up for a race, And then I started training people for races. And then I got shin splints and plantar pain. And I was like, wow, I've not had this before. So I went to the running shoe store, and that's where like the elite runners were. And I had a guy watch me run, so I felt like, wow, this is really neat. And he watched my foot strike, and he said, oh, you pronate. I was like, oh, what do I do? And he's like, you get these shoes, and these shoes are motion controlled, and they will help prevent you from pronating. So I was like, fantastic, let me get those shoes. Went right back to what I was doing and went right back to the same shin splints. So I asked a few other runners I knew, and they all said things like, get Dixie cups and put water in them and freeze them in your freezer and then rub them on your shins. That was a big one. This was before they had all that tape and all those other things, right? This was even before foam rollers, so all these injuries were still happening before all the fun stuff came out. So being a kines major, I was like, it must be me. And I found a book it had a little chapter on how to run. So I was like, oh, this is great. And this is funny because back then, like I said, I was a fitness instructor and I was a kines student. So it was not strange for me to go look at a book and find something out. I didn't realize it was such a stigma in the running community, by the way, of learning how to run. But for me, I practiced it, and then I started teaching it. And by the way, I've been now teaching that for 26 years and still getting success. But one of the first things I learned was there is a running action. And this is really important because everything in running is about foot strike. And it's about pronating, and then about not pronating, and heel striking, and having a soft landing, and all the words are landing. Everything is about touching the ground, hitting the ground, again, having a soft landing. So that means when you're running, you're actually thinking about landing, and you didn't even realize you were thinking about landing. And that was a big open eyes to me, by the way. So what's interesting is, like I said, if you're running, and like I was told, by the way, the running shoe store said, you push off your back leg and you reach with your front. Push off your back, reach with your front, and you pump your arms. That's how you run. And it's crazy because if I ask you to run in place, so for most people, if I say, hey, run in place, and if you're at home and you can do this, try it, just run in place. You do none of that. You actually pull your foot up, which is the correct running action, and you're not even thinking of where to put your foot down. When someone just tells you to run in place, you instinctively pick your foot up. Isn't that interesting? Yet to travel, we change our thought, and we think for some reason, I'm supposed to jump. Because pushing, guys, is a jumping action. It's an extension. So if I push, my body actually goes up, which means that it has to come down. And when I extend my back knee, and watch, if I let my leg leave, which direction did my leg go? It went behind me. If you stand up and push, your leg travels back. Well, your body is going forward. So as soon as that leg goes back, by the way, you're stuck. Like, you have to bring it forward in order for your body to travel. So it's interesting that we tell ourselves to push off our back foot and then reach with the front. So all of a sudden I pushed off my back and I reached with the front, and I essentially jumped forward is what I did, and caught myself. So you see, it doesn't really matter if it's a heel, pronate, whatever it is happening here, it's tension in both feet and actions that are not necessary in your run. So a lot of the impact that we actually have in our run is just from extra action that we didn't even need to do. And so all of a sudden, it's so strange, because again, try in place to push and reach. And it just, it's just, you can't. It makes no sense. It only makes sense to pull your foot, which, by the way, is the running action. And you already know it. And that's what's so fun. And when I do, like I said, when I do people's gait analysis, I love showing them that. I'm like, look, you already get into the running position, which is the figure 4, and you actually already pull your foot. So everything else is just extra work. But we hear these words all the time, right? Like, I hear the word all the time. People talk about foot strike and reaching. Pushing off the back is very popular. And instead of like here, like how I approach it, is these things, if I don't need it for my run, then why should I use it, right? And try it for yourself. That's the best part, is everything that I show people, I'm like, just try it. I have so many videos online, and they're just little drills. And they're nothing I made up. All of these come from track and field. And this is an interesting thing, because what most of us are missing in our run is, again, foot strike. So it's the landing part. And by the way, think about that. It's the only sport that really talks about what's actually a byproduct. And what I mean by that is your foot landing is a byproduct of the other foot lifting up. So your action is up, lifted foot drops. If I pick up my lifted foot, if I pick up my ground foot, my lifted foot drops. I don't have to do anything. I don't want to add more work when gravity is already working. Why do I want to add more pressure into the ground, right? I'm not running on a trampoline. This is ground. So what I want to do is use elasticity, keep my knees bent, and travel forward, right? And what starts to happen is when you learn how to pull, you naturally travel forward, and your foot pulls up from the ground. And we see this in all the other sports, football, soccer, you name it, and they all train drills. And all of their drills are things like quick feet, right? Quick feet, not land your foot down. They learn pick your foot up quick. They do tires, they do ladders, and everything is about, picking their feet up and using elasticity so they can pull their feet up quicker. So the same drills that we see for soccer, for football, basketball, track and field, like what the sprinters do. Everyone else does these drills except for distance runners. And then the distance runners are like, my calves, my shins. Well, you guys are the only ones that are running and like striking the ground. Like sprinters don't. All the sprinters drills, all the sprinters thoughts are of lifting, right? They want to get their feet up, and they have the highest cadence. Like elite sprinters' cadence are 250 and up, upwards of 300 for some of the ladies. And the average recreational runner is like 160 to 165. So when you start to realize that, wow, that's really different. The elite marathoners, the people winning the marathons, they're running like 175 to 180, 185. So when you start to realize what happens is if your cadence is slow, and usually it's because, again, you're doing those two jobs, that push and that reach, you're using what's called active muscle contraction. And again, really nice for jumping. However, for running, it just makes you tired. It makes your muscles fatigue quicker than they need to. So a lot of people, when they run, are actually doing like weightlifting. They're using more skeletal muscle, more active muscle contraction, and less cardio. So the effort you feel in your run sometimes is like muscular, like your legs are heavy, your back is tired, your hips, and it should feel light, and you should feel like you could keep pulling, and it should be this nice, light, floaty feeling, right? When you watch little kids run or you watch elites run, they always look smooth, right? And then you think, how are they picking their legs up so high? When you watch people run, they look so efficient. And really what's happening is that they are using the only movement they need to do, which is what you need to do. It's the same thing. And then you practice these elasticity drills and you start working your body like it's meant to be done, like it's meant to be worked, and you let go of foot strike, all of a sudden you let go of running injuries. And it's amazing. Like, we don't even realize how much pressure and impact we have in our run till we start paying attention to our running movement. And so, by the way, that's why I still like to use gait analysis. I've been doing gait analysis for people over 20 years. And I like to show people, yes, these are the extra movements you're doing. You might be pushing, you might be reaching. Here's why your shin hurts. Here's why your calf hurts. Here's why your hip hurts, your back. Whatever area is hurting, I can show you what's going on. And then the best part is to correct all of that. We're gonna work on the action you need to do when you run, which is just one action. And then the fun part is, by the way, all of the other exercises, so if you've been to PT or chiro or anything, those exercises are great, especially when you combine them with the correct action you want to use for your run and the correct movement pattern, right? So then my clams and all these exercises I've been doing for my tight hips and my calves that hurt and all that, those pains start to go away because those exercises are important. But even more important is you won't be running by throwing your foot out. And this is again, 3 times my body weight, and then my body weight again. So for some of the runners that I show them their run, it's not just 3 times their body weight. It's up to 6 to 8 times their body weight. And then unfortunately, they didn't even go anywhere. They're just sitting here absorbing body weight only because they're doing incorrect actions. So it's amazing, like we don't realize how much foot strike affects us and why it can create those injuries. Honestly, it's just because we're creating more tension than we need, we're working more than we need. So one of the first things you'll learn if you come in to Run RX, or just keep watching the videos, I'm gonna talk about all this, is all of a sudden, once you're focusing on what you're supposed to be doing when you run, you didn't even realize how much tension you were holding. And so much of that letting go process helps you let go of those injuries. So is foot strike affecting you and maybe creating some injuries? Sure. Can you help yourself to get rid of those injuries? And 100% yes. And so I hope, like I said, you keep watching. Please comment, ask questions. I'm going to do more deep dives. And notice I didn't even talk about, and we'll talk more about shoes. I used to be really fanatic when I first started coaching running, and I wanted everybody to go minimalist. I don't do that anymore, and I'll tell you why. I want you to be comfortable. So I'm not against cushioning in shoes, and I think it can be really beneficial to people. However, I want you to be comfortable in just your movement. And so I do encourage people, by the way, when they come in to Run RX or practice the drills, I'm like, try taking your shoes off just to do a drill, just to feel your feet, right? But then wear whatever you want that you're comfortable in for your run. So again, ask me questions. I look forward to spending more time on more deep dives. Thank you guys for watching and listening, and have a great day.